Hello everyone, it's me, Jinsowski. Today I'll be reading reviews of the sugar-free Haribo gummy bears. This is gonna be crazy. And, well, have fun. My friend hasn't been practicing social distancing during the pandemic, so I bought him a bag of these gummy for his birthday. It's now been 10 days since he left the house out of fear of poking himself again. I'm not gonna say Haribo sugar-free plastic gummy bears are the cure for the coronavirus, but it certainly helps slow down the spread. I sit here writing this review at 4 a.m. from my porcelain throne, a fixture you will become all too familiar with if you choose to eat these cute little bears from the pits of hell. I had to eat a pound of these little bastards after Man City must have thought they were playing American football the other week and lost to a team of Arsenal scrubs. They were a bit chewy, but overall appeared to be nothing more than your average gummy bears. After 2 hours with little more than some mild stomach cramps, feeling like one would expect from eating a pound of candy, I began to wonder if I had gotten some like a slow buildup of a Martin Scorsese film. However, those bears were waiting for their baptism scene to destroy my insides. It started with the cramping, very akin to doing 1,000 crunches and then being forced to hold the 1,001st crunch indefinitely. Then came the initial run, which opened the proverbial floodgates. I'm over 30 and I'm beginning to wonder if these bears know that and want to send me back to the can for each year I've been on this earth to make me wonder what I'd ever be born. In between gastrointestinal bouts of pressure washing the inside of my toilet from my anus, I lay in bed feeling as if someone were to punch me in the stomach. I'd explode, turning the walls of my bedroom into a Soil Jackson Pollock rendition. Spent $50 ordering a UFC pay-per-view. Willingly missed the last 2-3 fights on the main card because I didn't want to stray too far from the master bath. Thankfully for me and my marriage, fearing what might be coming, I convinced my wife to spend the evening at my sister-in-law's because, trust me fellas, nothing will be gained from your significant other experiencing this with you. I'm no longer in pain, but I'm still having to make trips back to my master bath on a regular basis. Eat these if you dare, but be forewarned. They are not to be trifled with unless you want toilet to be staging ground for repeat fecal rehearsals of the Red Wedding from Game of Thrones. This is about my experience with Haribo sugarless gummy bears. I hope no one ever has to go through the same horror that filled my house that night. I decided to buy a bag of my friend from work. Yes, these bears are directly from hell. I thought I was doing a nice thing for my 2 boys at home, aged 7 and 9, by bringing these home for dinner. Well, the delicious meal my wife worked so hard on ended up not happening. I snuck a few of these in my mouth right before I turned into the driveway with my car. 10 minutes later, I was standing in the kitchen when I almost fell to the floor. Whatever became transpiring inside my stomach would have made a gory Quentin Tarantino film look like The Sound of Music. It was already too late to warn the others. My wife and 2 kids had already eaten their bears as well. I could see the look of pain in their faces when we all abandoned the fact we were family and began an all-out war to see who could fight to the death for the bathroom first. It didn't matter who got in the 3 bathrooms in our house and who didn't. Death was upon us all night. In the midst of being in the most difficult battle of my life, I managed to retreat from the bathroom to let my wife take care of her own problems. Luckily, she only ate a few and was able to fight her way through the relatively easy ordeal while I prepared to go back to the front line and face the most evil enemy one could face. The aftermath of this war resulted in 2 toilets being clogged, with one of those being thrown out and exchanged with a clean one from Home Depot. The psychological ramifications from something like this would have thrown me into a state I could not deal with if we kept the same toilet I used that night. I was no longer a husband or father in that bathroom. I was a prisoner to my own body, weeping like no man should ever be allowed to weep like. Don't buy these. For the safety of your family, do not buy them. I've been making a conscious effort to try and start eating better. I bought these gummy bears to eat as a low-calorie treat. When they first arrived, I sampled one and thought they tasted pretty good. The next day, I made a mistake I will regret for the rest of my life. I brought the bag to work. While working, I scarfed down a few handfuls over the course of a few hours. I must have had 3 to 4 handfuls. Almost immediately afterwards, I started getting terrible gas pains. I work in a cubicle surrounded by other people, so I can just let my farts fly out as they come. So I went for a stroll around the building to discreetly vent the gas from my body as I walked down the hallways. After I let a few farts out, I felt wetness in my underpants. Panicked, I made a beeline towards the nearest bathroom. Sure enough, I had full-on Hershey squirt in my boxers. I sat in the bathroom stall for about 15 minutes trying to decide what to do. Meanwhile, people were coming and going from the bathroom. I was so scared I started to sweat and shake. I mulled over a few different plans of what seemed like an eternity. I finally decided that I would remove my boxers, flush them, and finish out the day commando style. I'm pretty sure my boxers clogged the toilet. I got out of there so quickly, I'm not even sure. While they are delicious, these bears cost me a pair of boxers and my dignity. Oh man, words cannot express what happened to me after eating these. The gummy bear cleans. If you are someone that can tolerate the sugar substitute, enjoy. If you are like the dozens of people that tried my order, run. First of all, for taste, I would rate this a 5. So good, soft, true to taste, fruit flavors like the sugar variety. I was a happy camper. But not long after eating about 20 of these, all hell broke loose. I had gastrointestinal experience like nothing I've ever imagined. Cramps, sweating, bloating beyond my worst nightmare. I had food poisoning from some bad shellfish, and that was almost like a skip in the park compared to what was going inside me. Then came the flatulence. Heavens to Murgatroyd, the sounds, like trumpets calling the demons back to hell. The stench, like 1,000 rotting corpses vomited. I couldn't stand to stay in one room for fear of succumbing to my own orders. But wait, there's more. What came out of me felt like someone tried to funnel Niagara Falls through a coffee straw. I swear my sphincters were screaming. It felt like delicate starfish was a gaping maw projectile vomiting a territorial flood of toxic waste. 100% liquid, flammable liquid, napalm. It was actually a bit humorous for a nanosecond, as it was just beyond anything I could imagine possible. And it went on for hours. I felt violated when it was over, which I think might have been sometime in the early morning of the next day. There was stuff coming out of me that I ate at my wedding in 2005. I had 5 pounds of these innocent-looking, delicious-tasting hellbears, so I told a friend about what happened to me, thinking it had to be some type of sensitivity I had to the sugar substitute. And in spite of my warnings and graphic descriptions, she decided to take her chances and take them off my hands. Silly woman. All the same for her, and a phone call from her while on the toilet, because you kinda end up living in the bathroom for a spell, telling me she really wished she would have listened. I think she was crying. Her sister was skeptical and suspected that we were exaggerating. She took me to work, since there was still 99% of the 5-pound bag left. She works for a construction company, where the builders, roofers, house painters, landscapers, etc. Lots of people who generally have limited access to toilets on a given way. I can't imagine where all of those poor men and women pooped that day. I keep envisioning men on roofs crossing their legs and trying to decide if they can make it down the ladder or if they should just jump. If you order these, best luck to you. And please, don't post a video review during the aftershocks. It was my last class of the semester, and the final exam was worth 30% of our grade. After a late study session, I felt confident, but I had to decide between sleeping in or cooking breakfast. My eyelids chose sleep. My stomach later regretted this decision, and after several uncomfortable stomach growls, I finally decided to make a quick stop by the campus bookstore and grab a snack before my test. Since the semester was ending and everyone was going for the summer, a lot of items were on sale, including the snacks and candy that they kept up front. Being in the hungry state that I was in, it felt only logical to pick the largest, yet least expensive candy in order to get more bang for my buck. And there they sat, 2 bags of Haribo sugar-free gummy bears. Buy one, get one free. What a deal, I thought naively. I would eat 1 bag before my test and 1 bag afterwards. As I walked to class, I gleefully chewed on those abominable little bastards, unaware of the utter mayhem that they would soon unleash upon my poor anus. I sat down at my desk as the professor informed us that, due to issues with cheating in the past, restroom breaks would be prohibited until the completion of the exam. I'll give you 10 minutes to use the restroom now. This will be your last chance. Any takers? The demon bears hadn't released their unholy necromancy upon my stomach yet, so in my moment of ignorant foolishness, I remained seated, still munching on those miniature bear-shaped bombs. After the students wise enough to take the professor's offer had returned, the professor handed out the test. I was 6 questions in when it happened. It started subtly at first, almost like a slight tingly sensation in my lower abdomen. I thought nothing of it, assuming my intestines were just doing their thing. Little did I know that my intestines were trying desperately to warn me of the horror that was in the horizon. By question 9, it happened again, but this time it was followed by a sharp pain, as if those infernal aliens had orchestrated an attack upon my colon. I fought to contain the groan that tried escaping my lips. It was at this point I began to panic. Something was going horribly wrong and I needed to get through this test before it got any worse. By question 14, my worst fear was upon me. The Satan bear's burning hot liquidy dark magic crashed against my anal sphincter like a tidal wave. I was able to close the hatch just in time, but those relentless toxic bears beat against it like orcs breaking down the doors of Helm's Deep. I knew I wouldn't be able to so much as a shift in my seat without risking a breach. I kept fighting through my exam, clenching my cheeks with all might. Beads of sweat began rolling down my neck. Suddenly, a loud gurgling war cry came from my belly, and the entire class lifted their heads. At this point, nothing mattered except expelling this ungodly presence from my bowels. With 15 questions left, I promptly wrote C for every answer and ran out of the classroom. My professor yelled something, but I was too preoccupied with the volcanic eruption that needed to take place before I could find sweet relief. I burst into the restroom like the Kool-Aid man, and behold, the handicap stall was empty. Sun rays from the adjacent windows shone upon it, as if it were a gift from God itself. It took me less than half a second to undo my belt buckle, pull down my pants, and finally relax my weary buttocks upon the toilet seat. It took absolutely no effort to expel this demon. Almost immediately, the floodgates of hell were opened and the damned, liquefied souls of an entire bag's worth of gummy bears cried as they burned through my sphincter and into the watery abyss below. I had never felt such simultaneous relief and anguish in my life. After 30 more minutes of this, I immediately went home, dug a hole in my backyard, and burned the remaining bag of gummy bears. I leave with this: do not, I repeat, do not eat these spawns of Satan. Not only did they cause me to fail my final test, but the anguish I experienced is something I would not wish upon anyone, not even my worst enemy. The only place these godforsaken hellbears belong are buried deep down the earth's surface. I think I'm gonna wrap it up right here. I might do a part 2, so stay tuned for that. Like and subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can get notified when I upload new videos. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye. It felt like delicate starfish was gape. The psychological ramifications this song games ASMR.